Hello, friends, Maestro here. And look at this fucking guy. If you are listening on whatever player, you can't see. But if you're on YouTube, and this is a little soft suggestion, a little hint to go to YouTube, you can see this guy. This guy right here is my best friend. This is Rupert. I moved my office around a little bit so I could have the nice chair behind me, so I actually use it. He's sitting on the nice chair now and pawing at my laptop, and now he's just laying down there. So that's Rupert, my best friend, making a cameo. Welcome to the show, Rupert. If you are listening, tuning in on the day that it drops, it is Monday, November 4th. We're talking about getting back on the Instagram wagon. Welcome to November. Happy November. First things first, go vote. If you didn't vote early, okay, then I don't know if you still can, but then vote tomorrow, right? Yes, I am voting for Kamala. If you didn't know that, I'm not sure how you didn't know that. But no, this isn't a political podcast, but y'all know my mere existence is political. Look at me. Just look at how I look. My mere existence is political. So there's that. The other day, I saw a post from a comedian, and he had said that no presidential election had ever done anything for him. It hasn't changed anything for him. It hadn't impacted him. And I was like, well, good for you, sir. That is a super privileged thing to say. And no, he wasn't a white guy, actually. He was a black man. And I was like, very interesting, sir. I think it's a bit of a bad take. So did the rest of his audience. But if that's you and you feel that way, let's take a moment and recognize our privilege, and let's vote to make that privilege a reality for other people, right? I'm voting so that things don't get worse. I really don't think that anyone is going to save me ever, for anything. I don't think any one single person is going to come in and save any of us, ever. But I do fully believe that people can make things worse, and a single person can make things worse. Trump objectively made things worse. And I don't want that shit to happen again. So I'm voting to make things not worse, right? I think that we have an opportunity if we do have that privilege. And in many ways, I have that privilege of being like, no matter the outcome, it probably won't affect me that much in my day-to-day. I should knock on wood. I live in a very affluent town. I live in a blue state, right? I'm in SoCal. People have money here. I feel very safe here. I think people are very accepting here. And so I do not think that if things, irrespective of the outcome, I don't think that my day-to-day would be that affected. Same thing happened during COVID. That in mind, I think that I have an opportunity, and if you're like me, you have an opportunity as well, to do one of the most powerful things that we can do when we have power, which is to give it to those who have less power than us. Some people that are disabled, they're lower income, less income, people of color, that's myself, right? So that's a lateral move there. Gay people, that's myself as well. Trans people, that's not me. Females, that's me as well, right? I stay talking about how we are a social species and we can't survive without each other. As much as I just want to be alone and hang out with this guy here with Rupert, right? We are a social species. We need each other to survive. To that end, now is the time to remember that. All right, I do understand the desire to vote based on personal interest, largely around personal financial interest. I get it. Money's a resource. I talk about it a lot on this podcast. But I also ask that, you take a moment, we all take a moment and reflect on whether personal financial interests and personal interests infringe on someone else's basic rights and their human rights. This whole narrative around we can still be friends and we can agree to disagree. No, not about this. If we're talking ice cream flavors, sure, strawberry is objectively disgusting, but I don't have to fucking eat it, right? It's fine. But to quote James Baldwin, we can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist. Right? I do have a ton of privilege. I really, really do. And like I said earlier, my day-to-day likely won't change too radically, regardless or irrespective of the outcome of this election. Again, I got to knock on wood. Because of where I live and where I choose to stay living and the resources that I do have and the resources that I have access to. And one of those resources being my health. I have bad knees, but that's about it. When Trump won in 2016, I canceled some of my work in some of my plans in terms of as I traveled for work. And I was like, I do not feel safe going to certain places. I still don't feel safe going to all places. I don't just go anywhere. But, and currently I do avoid going to certain places, but I know that this privilege that I have and that I don't have to go to those places where I don't feel safe. That's not the case for everyone. Some people live in those places. They can't leave. They don't have the resources, the money to leave those places. And one of the most powerful things that we can do as folks who do have privilege and power is to give it to the folks that don't have it, right? And help those people out. So I have the privilege of having the brain space to record this podcast episode while I know some folks are legitimately fearful right now for their lives. They're fearful for their future, and rightfully so. It fucking sucks. So I'm going to use the privilege and the power that I have and dedicate that beginning part of the episode to speaking about these things, right? So there's my thoughts. Happy to discuss. Notice I said discuss. Don't come yelling at me. Be blocked, be blessed. But I don't know who sees this podcast. If you listen, my guess is that we have a lot of shared views. If you're watching and this just got served to you on YouTube, well, hopefully be nice. If not, I'll just delete the comment. It's fine. Either way, I don't really care. But speaking of the podcast, let's get into the episode, of the main talking point of today's episode, which is getting back on the Instagram wagon. This is a question that I do receive pretty often, and it's just, largely how to get back after taking a long break or being away for whatever reasons. The long and the short, the simple, the difficult, the answer is just fucking start. Literally. Yes, obviously it's best to have not fallen off in the first place, but just fucking start. You don't need to apologize for being gone. Just come back. Just get started. Make a post. If you want to say where you were, what you were up to, you can, but you don't have to. I'm thinking about UC right now, Dr. Uchenna Osai. She stays just going away from Instagram and then comes back and is like, okay, look, it's another time for Bourbon Tales, which I mistakenly and erroneously said Bourbon Tales. I did not read it correctly, obviously, but you don't have to say where you were. I think let's humble ourselves a little bit and manage expectations with this. And I say this because I think that there is some underlying, people come back to Instagram being like, oh, people know that I'm gone because they were waiting for me. And I'm like, maybe. I want to highlight the positive of social, and that some people do know that you're gone or they do notice your absence. But also some people don't. And it's not because they don't like you. It's not because you don't matter. It's because they're busy with their own lives. But perhaps more than that, they just likely assume that you didn't leave and they just weren't seeing your stuff, right? Because Instagram doesn't show everything to everybody by any means. So you can say where you were, you can say you were gone, and you could do it if you want, but honestly, just get started. Right? So what to post, it doesn't matter. Literally anything. You're just looking to build momentum and get over that initial activation energy hump. Something to note here that's important for me to say, and I had this discussion the other week on my Instagram intensive call. If you find yourself constantly taking a break from Instagram, perhaps this is a good time, and now you're thinking about coming back to it, perhaps this is a good time to examine the relationship that you have with the platform. Right? I am all for boundaries, and I'm all for, being in the moment. Some people are just like, I don't want to be on my phone right now. I'm out with my family. Cool. That's totally fine. But if you're like, I constantly have to delete it from my phone, it's very draining for me. It's very toxic for me. I'm like, just don't use it at all. Life is too fucking short. Right? To me, or just in general, when I teach, the goal with using Instagram is sustainability and longevity. That's how you give yourself the best chance at actually, quote unquote, winning. So to show up at a frequency, the goal there is to show up at a frequency or with a frequency that actually allows for that sustainability and longevity. Right? I'm thinking about, on the Instagram intensive, this crew is great, by the way. They're all great. This crew is great. And I got a woman in there right now, and she's 3 times a week works great for me. And I'm like, amazing. Yes, I preach and teach every day, but only if that's sustainable and feasible. Right? You will build a habit way faster, and you'll build proficiency way faster with increased frequency. Yes, 100%. That is objectively true, but that frequency is also impacted by and determined by overall longevity. So if posting every day means that you can only be on there for 2 weeks consistently, and then you have to take fucking 2 months away, that is objectively worse than posting once a week and never needing to take that time away. Right? Last point here is that, and this is a quote from Jade Tata, that Jill's ex-husband that I use quite often, easy is earned. Easy as earned. So that means if you've built the habit of posting and showing up and you've built the trust with your audience and you've been showing up regularly at whatever cadence for years, taking time away is far less detrimental than, and I'll say detrimental, nothing's like that fragile, but it's far less detrimental than if you just started a month ago, right? Because you're not trying to build the habit still. Yes, from an audience perspective, from the audience trust perspective, it's less detrimental, but namely and largely from the habit formation and ease of resuming perspective. It's just easier if you've been doing it for a longer time. I am fully saying this, like speaking from experience and talking to myself here. I haven't posted for like the past week or so. It feels like it's been longer than that. But I was launching, so I was posting things about launching, and then Lex's parents came into town, and we were launching. But when we launched Lextramind, it's like more of a pocket launch, what I call a pocket launch. So it's not like it's not like super front facing. So I don't do a ton of posting around it. When I launched Legacy, that has a big public component, but Lextramind not so much. So I guess really haven't been posting, and I'm gonna post again today. I'm making this video. Wow, I am recording this podcast episode right now, and then I'm gonna go record a video and put it up on Instagram. Just like get fucking started again. That's it. So if you, like me, have fallen off the Instagram wagon, just get back on. Just get right back on. Get back on the wagon, the horse, whatever the phrase is. It doesn't matter what day you do it, what time you do it, what you post about. It could be in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter. It could be on a middle of the night on Thursday. It doesn't matter. Just look to get over that activation energy and just get started again. I know that this is unstructured advice, but it's the honest truth. If you know that you personally need more structure, then go ahead and plan a content calendar. But I have honestly yet to find someone who actually, that content calendar approach actually works for them. They actually stick to it. I do realize that could largely be due to the fact that we attract what we are. And I am not that super structured person when it comes to content creation. I love having the freedom to just create what I want, when I want, based on, whatever's in my head. And so I think I attract people that like that as well. I do think that most folks who look to create these content calendars do have good intentions, but they stray from that content calendar pretty quickly, and then soon enough they're off the wagon because they're like, I don't really want to post this, and then they don't post, and they're like, oh, but I need to get back on it. Then they're like shooting all over themselves and shooting all over themselves, and then they stop posting again. Or I see the type of person that enjoys the planning, but not the execution. So they make this like beautiful content calendar, and they're like, okay, the thrill is gone, the excitement is gone, and then they don't actually post. So all that to say, lean into whatever works for you. I know Annie Miller is a great example of someone who really does like creating a content calendar, and kind of sticking to that. But she also has 2 kids now, and like I have to ask her, but I think probably before she had kids, she was a little bit more like free with it. But either way, it's her personality type. It fits her, and she knows that she thrives with that, and she can stick to it. So all that to say, figure out the approach that works best for you. But please, if you've fallen off the wagon, just get back on. Post anything. Okay? And also, last things last, if you haven't already, make sure that you go and vote. That's all I got for you. Keeping this episode short so you can go and vote, so you can go do the things. And if you got any questions, comments, concerns, or requests, namely, for episodes, would love to hear them. I welcome them. I'm able to come up with content, but I'm also like, you know what? I need some assistance. So any thoughts you got, any suggestions, would love to hear them. Text me, 310-737-2345. Shoot me a DM at the Movement Maestro. And a big thank you in advance. Until next time, friends, Maestro out.